My absolute favorite thing about the mecha genre is just how over the top it gets. That's not to say that non-mecha anime don't go over the top, just that when mecha anime do it, it's like, God, it's ridiculous. Mecha anime just bring it to a whole new level. Like, you want an anime where giant robots throw galaxies at each other like shuriken? Bam, Gurren Lagann. You want to meet a giant robot that's made out of the crystallized fist of Zeus? Shin Mazinger Z. Or, how about a series where a rock god / mecha pilot uses the concentrated power of rock and roll to stop war and save space whales? That would be Macross 7. Okay, so first things first, Macross. Odds are you're familiar with it, but just in case you aren't, it's an incredibly influential mecha series that always has strong themes of the importance of music. It began in 1982 with SDF Macross. Its most recent entry, as of when I am making this video, was Macross Delta, but its most popular entry is, by far, Do You Remember Love?
Actually, I'm pretty sure it's the original SDF Macross. Or maybe these days it's Frontier.
Potato. Anyways, for better or for worse, Macross 7 is considered to be kind of an odd duck in the Macross franchise, and honestly, in many ways it reminds me of the way G Gundam stands out in the long list of Gundam titles.
Neo America has taken the first step by detaching their Manhattan combat area to stage an attack.
But why are they doing that? What's that light over there? That thing's Neo America's ultimate weapon, the Statue of Liberty cannon.
And of course, this is all just a polite way of saying that when Macross 7 came out, the only other Macross anime were a lot more serious and dramatic in tone, but Macross 7, on the other hand, just revels in that aforementioned hot-blooded, over-the-top mecha ridiculousness for 49 whole episodes, plus a movie and a few OVAs, most well-known among them being Macross Dynamite 7, cause that's the one where they save the space whales with rock and roll. But anyways, this is all to say that Macross 7 is absolutely nothing like the rest of Macross, so it tends to catch a lot of people off guard. And while I can definitely see how that wouldn't be considered a good thing to all of its potential viewers, if you're like me and your favorite mecha anime are those more silly, over-the-top ones like Gunbuster, G Gundam, and Gurren Lagann, then guess what? You'll probably love Macross 7. One of my absolute favorite things about Macross 7 is just how easy it tends to be to convince people to give it a watch. Don't believe me? Check this out. Plot summary. Our protagonist is Neki Basara, part-time rock star with Yoshiki Fukuyama's godlike singing voice, and part-time mech pilot. Macross 7 follows Basara as he jams with his band and pilots his mech with his guitar, and uses the power of his voice to stop war. Oh, did I not mention this, by the way? Yeah, so Basara here is a pacifist who is staunchly against using mechs for fighting, so he will routinely just find a fight, he will jump right in the middle of it, and I kid you not, he will yell that everyone there should listen to his song. And this absolute mad lad will just start rocking out in the middle of the battlefield, and he'll just do that until everyone stops fighting, and he does this in pretty much every single episode. Yeah, that sounds absolutely bonkers, doesn't it? Well, I'll tell you what's even more bonkers is that more often than not, it actually works! Wars stopped, space whales saved, leaves eaten. There is nothing Neki Basara can't do. But getting back on topic, you might have guessed it by now, but yeah, Macross 7 is very episodic and revolves almost entirely around Basara, what he's doing and what others are doing because of him. He is definitely the biggest driving force in Macross 7, and while I'm normally not a super huge fan of anime that relies so heavily on their protagonists, Macross 7 is, in my opinion at least, one of the very few that pulls this off pretty well, since they just make him ridiculously fun. Like, you want to know what the first thing you see him do is? Yeah, you watch him parachute on stage. He just does stuff like this, and a lot of the fun to be had in Macross 7 comes from stuff like this. Honestly, the only downside to all this is that the other characters in Macross 7 tend to get super overshadowed by Basara, which is a shame because there's plenty of other good characters here too. Case in point, this is Gamlin, and this is his lovely rendition of Macross 7's opening song, Seventh Moon. Oh, but I hear you. You're saying, well, Kennedy, this series sounds excellent. You've all but sold me on it, but, you know, I've never watched a Macross series before, so can I start here? How does this fit into the Macross universe as a whole? And, like, you know, I could sit here and I could answer your question, sure, but you're gonna get a much better answer out of MechaManDan here, who, if his tag didn't already make it obvious, is a huge fan of mecha anime, and he also happens to be the guy who got me into Macross 7, and Macross as a whole, actually. Yeah, Macross 7 was actually my starting point into Macross, fun fact. Anyways, Dan, why don't you go ahead and tell him all about Macross?
Alright, so Macross as a whole is actually pretty easy to get into. Most of the time, you can just kind of pick any series and run with it with little context, and Macross 7 is no different. When Macross 7 first came out, the only other Macross TV series was the original Super Dimension Fortress Macross. There were a few movies and OVAs here and there, like Do You Remember Love, Macross 2, and Macross Plus, but the last time there had been a full, televised Macross series was over a decade ago. Macross 7, taking place after the original Macross, keeps this in mind and makes sure to recap pretty much everything you need to know about the original series as a brief opening scene in its first few episodes. Another common question people have when trying to get into Macross is its relation to Robotech and where that falls in regards to the franchise. And, well, there's a short answer and there's a long answer. The long answer is something that could be an entire video on its own, and the short answer is Harmony Gold sucks, don't watch Robotech. Hating Harmony Gold aside though, Robotech falls nowhere in the Macross franchise and is its own separate thing. It's kind of like how Power Rangers is related to various Super Sentai shows. Same footage, different show. Except that, you know, Power Rangers is actually good.
Yeah, the full image of why Harmony Gold is awful is something I'll probably make a full video on one of these days, but suffice to say, they've done Macross absolutely no favors in the Western world. And that's why Macross 7, to this day, still hasn't been licensed, and whether or not it ever will be, well, it's hard to say for sure, but if nothing else, it'll be quite a while before that ever has a chance of happening. So, the good news is that while you can watch the whole thing for free on YouTube, which you clearly have access to, you're not likely to ever see it on a more official streaming service. Furthermore, a dub for Macross 7 simply does not exist, so you're gonna have to watch this one subbed. But hey, you know, you get to hear Yoshiki Fukuyama's godlike singing voice in pretty much every episode, so, you know, silver lining. Seriously, I cannot stress enough just how much I love the Macross 7 soundtrack. While Planet Dance does admittedly get pretty overplayed in the first half, the series does eventually get a pretty good selection of songs that you'll hear at least one of each episode. Personally, my favorite is Totsugeki Love Heart, but Dan, what about you? What's your favorite Macross 7 song?
Hey, my favorite is Totsugeki Love Heart too, but honestly, I love them all. Between his solo work, Macross 7, Hummingbird, Jam Project, and everything else he's done, I honestly don't think Yoshiki Fukuyama could make a song sound bad even if he wanted to. And while all of the Macross series are known for having great soundtracks, some of which even involve Yoko Kanno by the way, I'd still say 7 has by far the best.
Macross 7 is very much a what you see is what you get kind of show. If you think watching a rock star pilot a mech with a guitar to propel himself into fights so he can calm everyone down with music and stop wars and save space whales sounds fun, then you're probably gonna like this. You'll probably revel in the absurdness that it throws at you, and you're gonna have a great time. But if you think this sounds a bit too ridiculous or episodic for your tastes, or maybe you were just hoping for a more serious mecha anime that's more in line with classic classic Macross, yeah, then this probably isn't the show for you. For what it's worth, though, I think Macross 7 is spectacular, and I'd recommend it to pretty much anyone on any day. I think I've already made my point that I have pretty much nothing but good things to say about it, so to close this video off, God, I don't know, just go listen to Basara's song.
Fun fact, Basara is a super busted support unit in every single Super Robot Wars game he's in.